Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today. My name is Bret and I'm a student at the Pennsylvania State University, World Campus, studying in the Energy and Sustainability Policy program and also minoring in Energy Business and Finance. Today I want to talk to you about my capstone project. My capstone project is a requirement to complete my degree in Energy and Sustainability Policy. The assignment is to make a case for or against a policy, action plan, or proposal currently in the public arena and relevant to energy and sustainability policy. I spent several months researching policies, action plans, and proposals, and it wasn't until July of 2015 I came across a co-membership memorandum by Senator Lisa Boscola of Pennsylvania on Senate Bill 805. After doing research on Senate Bill 805, I immediately knew that this was a policy that I wanted to evaluate for my capstone project. And I spent the past several months researching, writing, analyzing, and doing interviews on Senate Bill 805, and I want to share the information I gathered with you today. And without further ado, let's get started.
So before I can get into the policies proposed by Pennsylvania Senate Bill 805, I need to explain some background information first. In particular, we need to take a look into Pennsylvania Act 129. Pennsylvania Act 129 was introduced as House Bill 2200 in the 2007-2008 session of the Pennsylvania Legislature. In October of 2008, the bill was voted upon and passed by Governor Edward Dow and signed it into law and thus became Act 129. The act became effective that following November. Pennsylvania Act 129 has three objectives. The first objective is to provide Pennsylvanians adequate, reliable, affordable, efficient, and environmentally sustainable electric service at the least cost. The second objective is to adopt energy efficiency and conservation measures and to implement energy procurement requirements designed to ensure that electricity obtained reduces the possibility of electric price instability, promotes economic growth, and ensures affordable and available electric service to all residents. And the third objective was to expand the use of alternative energy and to explore the feasibility of new sources of alternative energy to provide electric generation.
So to achieve those objectives that were just described, the Act expanded the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission's oversight responsibilities and imposed new requirements on the Pennsylvania electric distribution companies with the overall goal of reducing energy consumption and demand. Act 129 directed the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission to adopt an energy efficiency and conservation program tailored to Pennsylvania's electric distribution companies with at least 100,000 customers. Each of these utilities were required to plan and adopt their own energy efficiency and conservation plans and submit it to the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission for approval. These plans must detail the way these utilities plan on meeting the targets specified by the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission or face fines of up to $20 million, which I will talk about here on the next slide. Under Act 129, the standards have actually been broken into phases. Phase 1 has lasted from June 1st, 2010 to May 31st, 2013. The current phase we are in, Phase 2, has lasted from June 1st, 2013 and will last to May 31st, 2016. A proposed Phase 3 is currently under discussion and development, and by law would last from June 1st, 2016 to May 31st, 2021. The Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission set specific reduction targets during Phase 1 and Phase 2 that each of the electric distribution companies' plans was required to meet. Phase 1 of the standard required the electric distribution companies to develop plans to provide expected electricity savings of 1% by May 31st, 2011 and 3% by May 31st, 2013. The utilities were also required to develop plans that provide peak demand savings of 4.5% by May 31st, 2013. Phase 2 was a little bit different. Phase 2 requires energy savings that vary by utility from 1.6% to 2.9%. For instance, Duquesne Light's target was 2%, Overall, these goals are expected to result in collective savings of 3.3 million megawatt hours over the 3-year period. Phase 1 was a success for Pennsylvania electric distribution companies, most of which succeeded in reaching their required reduction targets. This was verified by a statewide evaluator that reported the energy efficiency and conservation programs returned $2.40 to $3 for every dollar spent. Next, we'll take a look into how these programs operate. So these programs work by having Pennsylvania electricity customers pay surcharges on their electricity bills for their electric distribution companies' energy efficiency and conservation programs. These customers include all, being residential customers, government nonprofits, small commercial and industrial, and large commercial and industrial, etc. However, those additional costs are then given back to the customer via their electric distribution company in forms of energy efficiency programs, including rebates, free energy audits, old appliance recycling, just to name a few. A class system was put in place that designed surcharges based on customer class or electricity usage. So what that means is that, for example, residential customers pay into their Pacific program and do not subsidize any other customer classes program, like large commercial and industrial ones, and vice versa. On the screen is Duquesne Light's monthly surcharge rates for peak times represented in a chart. Notice from the table that large commercial and industrial customers not only pay per kilowatt, but also fixed monthly surcharges on their bills. And this is where the issue arises and where Senate Bill 805 comes into play. Next, we'll explore the issues and concerns that have risen and ultimately what drives Senate Bill 805's policies. In Senator Lisa Boscola's co-membership memorandum on Senate Bill 805, she notes that by the time the current phase of the plan ends on May 31st, 2016, customers will have paid into the plans for over 7 years. Some large commercial and industrial customers have contributed several million dollars into these energy efficiency and conservation plans. In many instances, this money is being used to subsidize efficiency projects for their competitors. And the fear is that these energy efficiency and conservation plans directed by the Pennsylvania's electric distribution companies are hurting these Pennsylvania large commercial and industrial sector by imposing more costs onto these companies and making them less competitive to other companies in other states. For instance, Lisa Boscola also notes that currently 24 states have mandatory utility-administered energy efficiency and conservation programs, with 13 of them providing larger customers with the ability to opt out. Large industrial customers in those 13 states now enjoy a competitive advantage over their Pennsylvania rivals. These large commercial and industrial sector companies also argue that they already possess the commitment to energy efficiency without the direction of the energy efficiency and conservation plans to stay competitive in the market and reduce overall operation costs. Now that we have learned about Act 129, the energy efficiency and conservation plans, and the issues and concerns that have arisen since their implementation, now we can take a look into the policies being proposed by Senate Bill 805. Pennsylvania Senate Bill 805 would allow large commercial and industrial entities in the state of Pennsylvania to opt out of their electric distribution company's energy efficiency and conservation plans. Pennsylvania Senate Bill 805 will also set new rules. Customers that opt out will not be eligible to receive grants or other energy efficiency and conservation plans during the phase. Customers that opt out will not be required to pay the cost recovery surcharge for the phase. And lastly, customers' energy requirements will be removed from the electric distribution company's targets for the phase. These are the policies and new rules that Senate Bill 805 would put into place. And now that we know about these policies, let's take a look into what the current status of Senate Bill 805 is. Pennsylvania Senate Bill 805 was introduced on May 14, 2015, and it was referred to the Pennsylvania Senate Consumer Protection and Professional Licensure Standing Committee. More recently, on October 17, 2015. The committee voted the bill as committed, and now we wait to hear about further plans. Now, I would like to share with you now are the shareholders who support and oppose Senate Bill 805. We'll start off with the stakeholders who support Senate Bill 805. The stakeholders who support the bill include the Industrial Consumers of Pennsylvania, the Electric Power Generators Association, and the Walmart Corporation. These stakeholders support the bill for obvious reasons, because they believe the bill would make these consumers more competitive and reduce costs of operations. You might be surprised about the Walmart Corporation support. For example, down in Florida, they have a similar bill like 805 that would allow large commercial entities in their state to opt out of their energy efficiency and conservation plans, and Walmart has publicly come out to support that bill. Now we'll take a look into the stakeholders who oppose the bill, and these stakeholders include the utilities of Pennsylvania, including Duquesne Light, Metropolitan Edison, Pennsylvania Electric, Pennsylvania Power, West Penn Power, the Keystone Energy Efficiency Alliance, Citizens of Pennsylvania's Future or Penn Future, and the Pennsylvania Environmental Council. These stakeholders oppose the bill for various reasons, including the risk of increased pollution, the risk of increased electricity prices for other consumers, and the utilities oppose for several reasons, including losing their lowest cost resource, and the speculation on what the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission would do. Next, we'll talk about these issues, and while I comment on my analysis section of my Capstone Project report. The analysis was a critical part of this project that dove deeper into the research and background information on the policies proposed under Senate Bill 805. There were numerous issues explored in this analysis, like how will Senate Bill 805 impact the effectiveness of Act 129? How will Senate Bill 805 affect Pennsylvania electric distribution companies? And how will these opt-outs affect Pennsylvania electricity ratepayers? In my analysis and research, there is one common denominator I found, and that is the issues are hardly dependent on the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission's decisions if Senate Bill 805 happens to pass. When I was analyzing the first issue on how Senate Bill 805 will impact the effectiveness of Act 129, I had the chance to do an interview with Annie Galeo of the American Council for the Energy Efficiency Economy. Annie informed me that Act 129 targets were set based on a potential study that included savings from large commercial and industrial consumers. She recently heard someone from the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission say that an opt-out will blow up the assumptions made in the potential study. This might mean the Commission would have to go back to the drawing board and reset targets entirely, or it might mean the assumed savings associated with the industrial programs are cut off the goal and the electric distribution companies' targets are adjusted around that. However, it is hard to say what will happen if Senate Bill 805 would pass. We'd have to wait till then and see what the Pennsylvania Utility Commission decided to do in that case. Knowing that, the results of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission's decisions and implementation of the bill will be the factor that will influence Act 129's effectiveness. There are several key issues that the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission will have to face, including reducing overall reduction targets, eliminating or reducing penalties for not meeting target goals, and how Pennsylvania electric distribution companies will have to change their energy efficiency and conservation plans. And that brings us to the next issue I explored, and that is how will Senate Bill 805 impact Pennsylvania's electric distribution companies. We know that most of the electric distribution companies oppose Senate Bill 805, and here's why. Pennsylvania electric distribution companies are required to meet their demand reduction targets that the Commission put in place for Phase 1 and for Phase 2. If these distribution companies do not meet the reduction goals, they face penalties up to $20 million. If the policies under Senate Bill 805 are put in place, the electric distribution companies will lose their least cost resource to meet demand, and if the Commission does not amend their targets or penalties, the electric distribution companies will carry the full weight of having to meet demand or face penalties. So there is a degree of uncertainty on what the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission is going to do if Senate Bill 805 is passed. And the point is, the distribution companies face a lot of risk if Senate Bill 805's policies will be implemented and the Commission does not change their targets or penalties. Next, I looked into how Senate Bill 805 would impact other electricity ratepayers, like residential customers. For this issue, I also looked to my interview with Annie, as she pointed out that the most important factor to remember here is that Act 129 requires customers to only pay for their efficiency measures available to their customer class. So the opt-out would not have an outright effect through the energy efficiency and conservation plans, for example, to residential customers. However, we have to remember that these efficiency programs are the least cost resource available to the distribution companies to meet demand. And these large industrial and commercial projects are some of the cheapest savings that they can capture. So cutting those out means that all customers in Pennsylvania are going to lose a cheap option for their electric distribution company to meet demand. So in the long term, all customers are going to be missing out on the benefits associated with those energy efficiency programs available in these large commercial and industrial sector, and that will ultimately impact customer bills in the long term. For the final parts of my capstone project, I detailed my personal position on Senate Bill 805 and also made recommendations to a specific stakeholder. For my personal position, I chose to oppose Pennsylvania Senate Bill 805 and chose to make a case against it. It really came down to believing that the negative impacts far outweigh the positives. With everything I just explained within my analysis, the uncertainty, the large risk in losing the least cost resource to meet demand for the electric distribution companies, and ultimately the long-term impact of Senate Bill 805's policies on other electricity ratepayers, is just not right for Pennsylvanians right now, and I truly believe that. For the other part of my final project, the recommendation, I had to choose a stakeholder who holds the same position I do and recommend a detailed plan of action that engages with others who oppose Senate Bill 805 and want to make sure that it is not passed within the Senate. For my stakeholder, I chose the Keystone Energy Efficiency Alliance to make recommendations to. To introduce the Keystone Energy Efficiency Alliance, it is a nonprofit trade organization that consists of 50 business members, nonprofit organizations, and governmental partners. Overall, the Alliance represents the interests of the clean energy industry in Pennsylvania. Not only do they advocate for renewable energy, but they also advocate for energy efficiency. They do this at the federal, state, and local levels. I considered the Keystone Energy Efficiency Alliance for this recommendation section because it already provides information and education on policies, advocacy strategies, and networking opportunities. The Alliance has already taken great strides on Senate Bill 805, including putting educational materials out to the public, advocating for opposition by testifying before several Pennsylvania state and Senate and House committees, and networking with individuals, businesses, and government partners. For the detailed plan, I made many recommendations to the Alliance. I emphasized on taking the opportunity for coalition building, doing more testimonies, and overall being prepared. The Keystone Energy Efficiency Alliance can take this opportunity to learn from my recommendations and gives them an opportunity to build a coalition with other stakeholders who also oppose Pennsylvania Senate Bill 805 to tackle the bill to help not get it passed within the Senate. In the process, it could benefit the organization by building new business relationships that never existed and attract new members. Coalition building is an important strategy for the Alliance to consider because it will combine stakeholder resources and public reach. The Alliance's many professional members have already testified on several occasions before the multiple committees in the Pennsylvania State Senate and House. As the timeline comes out for Pennsylvania Senate Bill 805 and any hearings that are scheduled, it is important that the Alliance still sends professionals to these hearings. It is important to note, however, that none of these strategies are more important than being prepared. Many other stakeholders disagree with the opposing position of not allowing large commercial and industrial consumers to opt out of these energy efficiency and conservation plans, or Act 129. These stakeholders are also going to be implementing their own strategies for advocacy and networking and will bring arguments to the table. The most important strategy is to prepare for these arguments and gather approaches to counteract them.
So that's all the information I have to present to you today for my presentation. The most important information I want you to gain from this presentation is the information about Pennsylvania Act 129 and Senate Bill 805. If you want to learn more information about those, you can definitely go visit the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission's website for Pennsylvania Act 129 and the PA Legislature's website, as well as Lisa Boscola's website for more information about Senate Bill 805. If you also are interested, part of the Capstone Project here, we created blog sites, and each week we wrote a new blog about the happenings of that week, so what we did and everything. If you're interested, you can follow the link that I posted on the bottom of this YouTube page, or you can see it here on that slide. I want to take the time in this conclusion to really reflect over my Capstone Project as a whole. As many of you don't know, the Capstone Project included several parts. The first part was the written report, which took about 2 months to write. The written report was 4 sections altogether. The first section was the background section, the second section was the research section, and the third was the analysis, and the fourth was the recommendations section. After I got my written report all completed, I got the chance to do an in-person presentation, which I pretty much presented all the information I presented you today. And I got to do that at my local Penn State Beaver campus. They provided me a auditorium, and I was allowed to invite community members. Most of my neighbors and my family showed up, and I got the chance to show them what my Capstone Project was about, and I got to inform them about Pennsylvania Act 129 and Senate Bill 805, and I got them involved in. I was really happy to do that. Reflecting over my Capstone Project, the hardest thing I think was getting those interviews. Altogether, we had to get 6 interviews, and I only got a chance to do 3. The 3 interviews that I got to do were the legislative director from a local senator's office, and Annie's that we had talked about in these slides here, and also Chuck Fulham, who is a Rate and Regulatory Affairs Director for several of Pennsylvania's electric distribution companies. Overall, I gained a lot of insight to the policies that govern the electric distribution companies in the state of Pennsylvania. Coming into this project, I never heard of Act 129 or, Senate Bill 805 or even the energy efficiency and conservation plans. I've definitely learned so much about these energy efficiency and conservation plans. I dove into my local electric distribution company, Duquesne Light, and really researched, the residential plans versus the industrial and commercial plans, and I got the chance to learn all about that sector and the policies that govern these electric distribution companies. So that was the most educating and fun part about the project. I really hope that the local community members and anybody out there really can take the information in this presentation and gain knowledge about Pennsylvania Act 129 and Senate Bill 805 and get them engaged in, the Pennsylvania political system. That was my main goal in my presentation that I gave at my Penn State Beaver campus. I just want to get the information out there as much as possible and educate people as much as I can about the issues and about Pennsylvania Act 129 and Senate Bill 805. I believe strongly in Act 129, and I took a really great interest in this Capstone Project, and I learned so much, and I want to just, give that information out to people as well. I also want to take this time to invite people to comment or share their
concerns or, just more information about this, either on the comment section on this YouTube page, or you can go on my blog site and comment on any of my blogs that I've written. And the last thing that I want to show here is a bibliography to give credit where credit was due. These are all the sources that I use to present here in this presentation. Again, I thank you for joining me today, and I hope I gave you more information about Pennsylvania Act 129, Senate Bill 805, and the Energy and Sustainability Policy Capstone Project. Again, thank you.